Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for hanging out with me. It is on the early side, but because I'm getting up early tomorrow morning, I have to kind of do this now so that way I can get through 2 chapters, because my plan is to have 2 towers completely read through before the end of August, and if everything goes according to that plan, doing 2 chapters each reading stream, doing 2 reading streams a week. I will have Book 4 read with a week to spare, because there are 10 chapters in Book 4, Part 2 of the 2 Towers. So basically, we are kind of done. Not, done, but we're leaving Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, Theoden and Éomer, and all those, basically, leaving them to their adventures, and we're seeing what Frodo and Sam have been up to during this time, basically. So that's pretty much how Tolkien in the book split it up. If you watch the movies, it goes back and forth, between Frodo and Sam and the rest of the group. But, so... but again, yes. But thank you all. Share the stream out, please. Sorry, I had to respond to a message because it came through. Share the stream out, please. If you are here hanging out now, I hope you enjoy the reading. If you're listening to the replay, I hope you enjoy listening to the replay. I'll be reading the first 2 chapters, so chapters 1 and 2, beginning with chapter 1, The Taming of Smeagol. A little bit of lore trivia for everyone. If you've seen the movies, you know, basically, that Smeagol used to be a hobbit. Of the Hobbit genus, basically. Specifically, they don't really go into it in the movies, but specifically, Smeagol was what is known as a Stoor, S-T-O-O-R, breed of hobbits, basically. They were the river folk. So, but we will be meeting Smeagol, officially now, moving forward. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, sit back and I hope you enjoy the reading with Chapter 1, The Taming of Smeagol. Well, master, we're in a fix and no mistake, said Sam Gamgee. He stood despondently with hunched shoulders beside Frodo and peered out with puckered eyes into the gloom. It was the 3rd evening since they had fled from the company, as far as they could tell. They had almost lost count of the hours during which they had climbed and labored among the barren slopes and stones of the Yemen Muil, sometimes retracing their steps because they could find no way forward, sometimes discovering that they had wandered in a circle back to where they had been hours before. Yet on the whole, they had worked steadily eastward, keeping as near as they could find a way to the outer edge of the strange twisted knot of hills. But always they found its outward faces sheer, high and impassable, frowning over the plain below. Beyond its tumbled skirts lay livid, festering marshes, where nothing moved and not even a bird was to be seen. Alright, but welcome everyone. Potato, yes. That's actually in the book. It's actually in the book. And yes, shout out to that. Last talk to me, but welcome everyone. The hobbit stood now on the brink of a tall cliff, bare and bleak, its feet wrapped in mist, and behind them rose the broken highlands, crowned with drifting cloud. A chill wind blew from the east. Night was gathering over the shapeless lands before them. The sickly green of them was fading to a sullen brown. Far away to the right, the Anduin, that had gleamed fitfully in sunbreaks during the day, was now hidden in shadow. But their eyes did not look beyond the river. Back to Gondor, to their friends, to the lands of men. South and east they stared to where, at the edge of the oncoming night, a dark line hung, like distant mountains of motionless smoke. Every now and again a tiny red gleam far away flickered upwards on the rim of earth and sky. What a fix, said Sam. That's the one place in all the lands we've ever heard of that we don't want to see any closer, and that's the one place we're trying to get to. So that's you can see the line in the book as well as the line in the movie. But there's one place we can't get. And that's just where we can't get know-how. We've come the wrong way altogether, seemingly. We can't get down, and if we did get down, we'd find all that green land a nasty bog, I'll warrant. Phew, can you smell it? He sniffed at the wind. Yes, I can smell it, said Frodo, but he did not move when his eyes remained fixed, staring out towards the dark line and the flickering flame. Mordor, he muttered under his breath. If I must go there, I wish I could come there quickly and make an end. He shuddered. The wind was chilly and yet heavy with an odor of cold decay. Well, he said, at last withdrawing his eyes, we cannot stay here all night, fix or no fix. We must find a more sheltered spot and camp once more, and perhaps another day will show us a path. Or another, and another, and another, muttered Sam. Or maybe no day. We've come the wrong way. I wonder, said Frodo. It's my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder, so that a way will be found. But will good or evil show it to me? What hope we had was in speed. Delay plays into the enemy's hands, and here I am, delayed. It is the will of the Dark Tower that steers us? Is it the will of the Dark Tower that steers us? All my choices have proved ill. I should have left the company long before and come down from the north, east of the river and of the Emyn Muil, and so over the heart of Battle Plain to the passes of Mordor. But now it is impossible for you and me alone to find a way back, and the orcs are prowling on the east bank. Every day that passes is a precious day lost. I am tired, Sam. I don't know what is to be done. What food have we got left? Oh, you've read the Silmarillion, Gravy. Only those. What do you call them? Lembas, Mr. Frodo. A fair supply. But they are better than naught by a long bite. I never thought, though, when I first set tooth in them, that I should ever come to wish for a change. But I do now. A bit of plain bread and a mug. Aye, half a mug of beer would go down proper. I've lugged my cooking gear all the way from the last camp, and what use has it been? Not to make a fire with for a start, and not to cook. Not even grass. They turned away and went down into the stony hollow. The western... Sorry, I have to respond to a message. This is what happens when you stream as early. Same copy as me. They turned away and went down into a stony hollow. The westering sun was caught into clouds and night came swiftly. They slept as well as they could for a cold turn and turn about, in a nook among great jagged pinnacles of weathered rock. At least they were sheltered from the easterly wind. Did you see them again, Mr. Frodo? Asked Sam as they sat, stiff and chilled, munching wafers of lembas in the cold gray of early morning. No, said Frodo. I've heard nothing and seen nothing for 2 nights now. Nor me, said Sam. Those eyes did give me a turn, but perhaps we've shaken him off at last, the miserable slinker. Gollum. I'll give him Gollum in his throat if I ever get my hands on his neck. I hope he'll never need to, said Frodo. I don't know how he followed us, but it may be that he's lost us again, as you say. In this dry, bleak land, we can't leave many footprints, nor even much scent. Even for his snuffling nose. I hope that's the way of it, said Sam. I wish we could get rid of him for good. So do I, said Frodo. But he's not my chief trouble. I wish we could get away from these hills. I hate them. I feel all naked on the east side, stuck up here with nothing but the dead flats between me and that shadow yonder. There's an eye in it. Come on, we've got to get down today somehow. But that day wore on, and when afternoon faded towards evening, they were still scrambling along the ridge, and had found no way of escape. Sometimes in the silence of that barren country, they fancied that they heard faint sounds behind them, a stone falling, or the imagined step of flapping feet on the rock. But as they had halted and stood still listening, they heard no more, nothing but the wind sighing over the edges of the stones. Yet even that reminded them of breath softly hissing through sharp teeth. All that day, the outer ridge of the Emyn Muil had been bending gradually northward as they struggled on. Along its brink, there now stretched a wide, tumbled flat of scored and weathered rock, cut every now and again by trench-like gullies that sloped steeply down to deep notches in the cliff face. To find a path in these clefts, which were becoming deeper and more frequent, Frodo and Sam were driven to their left, well away from the edge, and they did not notice that for several miles they had been going slowly but steadily downhill. The cliff top was... My voice broke there. The cliff top was sinking towards the level of the lowlands. At last they were brought to a halt. The ridge took a sharper bend northward, and was gashed by a deeper ravine. On the further side it reared up again, many fathoms at a single leap. A great grey cliff loomed before them, cut sheer down as if by a knife stroke. They could go no further forwards, and must turn now either west or east. But west would find them only into more labor and delay, back towards the heart of the hills. East would take them to the outer precipice. There's nothing for it but to scramble down this gully, Sam, said Frodo. Let's see what it leads to. A nasty drop, I'll bet, said Sam. Oh, I love nice things. The cleft was longer and deeper than it seemed. Some way down they found a few gnarled and stunted trees, the first they had seen for days. Twisted birch for the most part, was here and there a fir tree. No, I had to respond to something, Gravy. Many were dead and gaunt, bitten to the core by the eastern winds. Once in milder days there must have been a fair thicket in the ravine, but now, after some 50 yards, the trees came to an end. The old broken stumps straggled on almost to the cliff's brink. The bottom of the gully, which lay along the edge of a rock fault, was rough with broken stone and slanted steeply down. When they came at last to the end of it, Frodo stooped and leaned out. Look, he said, we must have come down a long way, or else the cliff has sunk. It's much lower here than it was, and it looks easier, too. Sam knelt beside him and peered reluctantly over the edge. Then he glanced up at the great cliff rising up away on their left. Easier, he grunted. Well, I suppose it's always easier getting down than up. Those who can't fly can jump. It would be a big jump still, said Frodo. About well he stood for a moment, measuring it with his eyes. About 18 fathoms, I should guess, not more. And that's enough, said Sam. How do I hate looking down from a height? But looking's better than climbing. All the same, said Frodo, I think we could climb here, and I think we shall have to try. See, the rock is quite different from what it was a few miles back. It has slipped and cracked. The outer fall was indeed no longer sheer, but sloped outwards a little. It looked like a great rampart or seawall whose foundations had shifted so that its course were all twisted in disorder, leaving great fissures and long slanting edges that were in places almost as wide as stairs. And if we're going to try and get down, we had better try it once. It's getting dark early. I think there's a storm coming. The smoky blur of the mountains in the east was lost in a deeper blackness that was already reaching out westwards with long arms. There was a distant murmur of thunder borne on the rising breeze. Frodo sniffed the air and looked up doubtfully at the sky. He strapped his belt outside his cloak and tightened it, and settled his light pack on his back. Then he stepped towards the edge. I'm going to try it, he said. Very good, said Sam gloomily, but I'm going first. You, said Frodo. What's made you change your mind about climbing? I haven't changed my mind, but it's only sense. Put the one lowest that is most likely to slip. I don't want to come down on top of you and knock you off. No sense in killing two with one fall. Before Frodo could stop him, he sat down, swung his legs over the brink and twisted round, scrambling with his toes for a foothold. It is doubtful if he ever did anything braver than cold blood or more unwise. A little bit of trivia for you all. I think I've said this before on other strings, but Sam's name, Samwise, actually translates to half-wise. Basically translates to half-wit. But if you think about it, he's the hero of the whole story. Kind of ironic. No, Sam, you old ass, said Frodo. You'll kill yourself for certain, going back over like that without even a look to see what to make for. Come back. He took Sam under the armpits and hauled him up again. Now, wait a bit and be patient, he said. Then he lay on the ground, leaning out and looking down, but the light seemed to be fading quickly, although the sun has not yet set. I think we could manage this, he said presently. I could at any rate, and you could too, if you kept your head and followed me carefully. I don't know how you can be so sure, said Sam. Why? You can't see to the bottom in this light. What if you comes to a place where there's nowhere to put your feet or your hands? Climb back, I suppose, said Frodo. Easy said, objected Sam. Better wait till morning and more light. No, not if I can help it, said Frodo with a sudden strange vehemence. I grudge every hour, every minute. I'm going down to try it out. Don't you follow till I come back or call. Gripping the stony lip of the fall with his fingers, he let himself gently down, until when his arms were almost at full stretch, his toes found a ledge. One step down, he said, and this ledge broadens out to the right. I could stand there without a hold. Ow! His words were cut short. The hurrying darkness now gathered great speed, rushed up from the east and swallowed the sky. There was a dry, splintering crack of thunder right overhead. Searing lightning smote down into the hills. Then came a blast of savage wind, and with it, mingling with its roar, there came a high, shrill shriek. The hobbits had heard just such a cry far away in the Marish as they fled from Hobbiton, and even there in the woods of the Shire it had frozen their blood. Out here in the waste its terror was far greater. It pierced them with cold blades of horror and despair, stopping heart and breath. Sam fell flat on his face. Involuntarily, Frodo loosed his hold and put his hands over his head and ears. He swayed, slipped, and slithered downwards with a wailing cry. Sam heard him, and crawled with an effort to the edge. "Master! Master!" he called. "Master!" He heard no answer. He found he was shaking all over, but he gathered his breath, and once again he shouted, "Master!" The wind seemed to blow his voice back into his throat, but as it passed, roaring up the gully and away over the hills, a faint answering cry came to his ears. All right, I'm here, but I can't see." Frodo was calling with a weak voice. He was not actually very far away. He had slid and not fallen, and he had come up with a jolt to his feet on a wider ledge not many yards lower down. Fortunately, the rock face at this point leaned well back, and the wind had pressed him against the cliff, so that he had not toppled over. He steadied himself a little, laying his face against the cold stone, feeling his heart pounding. But either the darkness had grown complete, or else his eyes had lost their sight. All was black about him. He wondered if he had been struck blind. He took a deep breath. Come back, he heard Sam's voice out of the blackness above. "I can't," he said. I can't find any hold. I can't move yet." "What can I do, Mr. Frodo? What can I do?" shouted Sam, leaning out dangerously far. Why could not his master see? It was dim, certainly, but not as dark as all that. He could see Frodo below him, a gray, forlorn figure splayed against the cliff, but he was far out of the reach of any helping hand. There was another crack of thunder, and then the rain came, and a blinding sheet mingled with hail it drove against the cliff bitter cold. "I'm coming down to you," shouted Sam, though how he hoped to help in that way he could not have said. No, wait," Frodo called back more strongly now. "I shall be better soon. I feel better already. Wait, you can't do anything without a rope." "Rope!" cried Sam, talking wildly to himself in his excitement and relief. "Well, if I don't deserve to be hung on the end of one as a warning to numbskulls. You're not but a ninny hammer, Sam Gamgee. That's what the gaffer said to me often enough, it being a word of his. Rope!" "Stop chattering," cried Frodo, now recovered enough to feel both amused and annoyed. "Never mind your gaffer. Are you trying to tell yourself you've got some rope in your pocket? If so, out with it." "Yes, Mr. Frodo, in my pack and all. Carried it hundreds of miles, and I'd clean forgotten it." "Then get busy and let an end down." Quickly Sam unslung his pack and rummaged in it. There indeed at the bottom was a coil of the silken grey rope made by the folk of Lorien. Yeah, real elvish rope. He cast an end to his master. The darkness seemed to lift from Frodo's eyes, or else his sight was returning. He could see the grey line as it came dangling down, and he thought it had a faint silver sheen. Now that he had some point in the darkness to fix his eyes on, he felt less giddy. Leaning his weight forward, he made the end fast around his waist, and then he grasped the line with both hands. Sam stepped back and braced his feet against a stump a yard or two from the edge. Half hauled, half scrambling, Frodo came up and threw himself on the ground. Thunder growled and rumbled in the distance, and the rain was still falling heavily. The hobbits crawled away back into the gully, but they did not find much shelter there. Rills of water began to run down. Soon they grew to a spate that splashed and fumed on the stones, and spouted out over the cliff like gutters of a vast roof. I should have been half drowned down there, or washed clean off," said Frodo. "What a piece of luck you had the rope." "Better luck if I had thought of it sooner," said Sam. "Maybe you remember them putting the ropes in the boats as we started off, in the Elvish country. I took a fancy to it, and I stowed a coil in my pack. Years ago, it seems. It may be a help in many needs," he said. "Hal, dear, or one of those folk," and he spoke right. A pity I didn't think of bringing another length, said Frodo, but I left the company in such a hurry and confusion. If only we had enough, we could use it to get down. How long is your rope, I wonder? Sam paid it out slowly, measuring it with his arms. 5, 10, 20, 30 ells, more or less, he said. Who'd have thought it? Frodo exclaimed. Ah, who would, said Sam. Elves are wonderful folk. It looks a bit thin, but it's tough and soft as milk to the hand. Packs close, too, and as light as light. Wonderful folks to be sure. I got last talking well. 30 elves, said Frodo, considering. I believe it would be enough. If the storm passes before nightfall, I'm going to try it. The rain's nearly given over already, said Sam. But don't you go doing anything risky in the dim again, Mr. Frodo. And I haven't got over that shriek on the wind yet, if you have. Like a black rider, it sounded. But one up in the air, if they can fly. I'm thinking we'd best lay up in this crack until night's over. And I'm thinking that I won't spend a moment longer than I need, stuck up on this edge with the eyes of the dark country looking over the marshes, said Frodo. With that, he stood up and went down to the bottom of the gully again. He looked out. Clear sky was growing in the east once more. The skirts of the storm were lifting, ragged and wet, and the main battle had passed to spread its great wings over the Emyn Muil, upon which the dark thought of Sauron brooded for a while. Thence it turned, smiting the vale of Anduin with hail and lightning, and casting its shadow upon Minas Tirith with threat of war. Then, lowering in the mountains and gathered its great spires, it rolled on slowly over Gondor and the skirts of Rohan, until far away the riders on the plain saw its black towers moving behind the sun, as they rode into the west. But here over the desert and the reeking marshes, the deep blue sky of evening opened once more, and a few pallid stars appeared, like small white holes in the canopy above the crescent moon. It's good to be able to see again, said Frodo, breathing deep. Do you know, I thought for a bit that I had lost my sight. From the lightning or something else worse. I could see nothing at all, until the gray rope came down. It seemed to shimmer somehow. It does look sort of silver in the dark, said Sam. Never noticed it before, though I can't remember as if I've ever had it out since I first stowed it. But if you're so set on climbing, Mr. Frodo, how are you going to use it? 30 ells, you say, about 18 fathom. That's no more than your guess at the height of the cliff. Frodo thought for a while. Make it fast to that stump, Sam, he said. Then I think you shall have your wish with this time and go first. I'll lower you, and you need to do more than use your feet. You need to do no more than use your feet and hands to defend yourself off the rock. Though if you put your weight down on some of the ledges and give me a rest, it will help. When you're down, I'll follow. I feel quite myself again now. Very well, said Sam heavily. If it must be, let's get it over. He took up the rope and made it fast over the stump, nearest to the brink. Then the other end he tied about his own waist. Reluctantly, he turned and prepared to go over the edge a second time. It did not, however, turn out half as bad as he had expected. The rope seemed to give him confidence, though he shut his eyes more than once when he looked down between his feet. There was one awkward spot where there was no ledge, and the wall was sheer and even undercut for a short space. There he slipped and swung out on the silver line, but Frodo lowered him slowly and steadily, and it was over at last. His chief fear had been that the rope length would give out while he was still high up, but there was still a good bite in Frodo's hands. When Sam came to the bottom and called up, "I'm down!" His voice came up clearly from below, but Frodo could not see him. His gray elven cloak had melted into the twilight. Hello, Steve. Frodo took rather more time to follow him. He had the rope about his waist, and it was fast above, and he had shortened it so that it would pull him up before he reached the ground. Still, he did not want to risk a fall, and he had not quite Sam's faith in the slender, gray line. He found two places all the same where he had to trust wholly to it. Smooth surfaces where there was no hold even for his strong hobbit fingers, and the ledges were far apart. But at last he, too, was down. "Well," he cried, "we've done it. We've escaped from the Emyn Muil. Oh, now what, I wonder? Maybe we shall soon be sighing for good hard rock underfoot again." But Sam did not answer. He was staring back up the cliff. "Ninny hammers," he said. "Noodles, my beautiful rope. There it is, tied to a stump, and we're at the bottom. Just as nice a little stair for that slinking Gollum as we could lead. Better put up a signpost to say which way we've gone. I thought it seemed a bit too easy. If you can think of any way we could have both used the rope and yet brought it down with us, then you can pass on to me Ninnyhammer, or any other name you Gaffer gave you," said Frodo. "Climb up and untie it and let yourself down if you want to." Sam scratched his head. No, I can't think how, begging your pardon, he said. But I don't like leaving it, and that's a fact. He stroked the rope's end and shook it gently. It goes hard parting with it anything. I brought out of the elf country. Made by Gladriel herself, too, maybe. Gladriel, he murmured, nodding his head mournfully. He looked up and gave one last pull to the rope as if in farewell. To the complete surprise of both the hobbits, it came loose. Sam fell over and the long gray coil slowed silently down on top of him. Frodo laughed. Who tied the rope? He said. A good thing it held as long as it did. To think that I trusted all my weight to your knot. Sam did not laugh. I may not be much good at climbing, Mr. Frodo, he said in injured tones, but I do know something about rope and about knots. It's in the family, as you might say. Why, my granddad and my uncle. After him. Him that was the gaffer's eldest brother. He had a rope walk over by Tyfell field many a year, and I put as fast a hitch over the stump as anyone could have done, in the Shire or out of it. Then the rope must have broken, frayed on the rock edge, I expect, said Frodo. I bet it didn't, said Sam, in an even more injured voice. He stooped and examined the ends. Nor it hasn't eaten either, not a strand. Then I'm afraid it must have been the knot, said Frodo. Sam shook his head and did not answer. He was passing the rope through his fingers thoughtfully. Have it your way, Mr. Frodo, he said at last, but I think the rope came off itself when I called. He coiled it up and stowed it lovingly in his pack. It certainly came, said Frodo, and that's the chief thing. But now we've got to think of our next move. Night will be on us soon. How beautiful the stars are, and the moon. They do cheer the heart, don't they, said Sam, looking up. Elvish they are, somehow. And the moon's growing. We haven't seen him for a night or two in this cloudy weather. He's beginning to give quite a light. Sorry. Let's see how much more is in here. Okay. Yes, said Frodo, but he won't be full for some days. I don't think we'll try the marshes by the light of half the moon. Under the first shadows of night, they started out on the next stage of their journey. After a while, Sam turned, and looked back at the way they had come. The mouth of the gully was a black notch in the dim cliff. I'm glad we've got the rope, he said. We've set a little puzzle for that footpad somehow. He can try his nasty flappy feet on those ledges. They picked their steps away from the skirts of the cliff among a wilderness of boulders and rough stones, wet and slippery with the heavy rain. The ground still fell away sharply. They had not gone very far when they came upon a great fissure that yawned suddenly black before their feet. It was not wide, but it was too wide to jump across in the dim light. They thought they could hear water gurgling in its depths. It curved away on their left northward, back towards the hills, and so barred their road in that direction, at any rate while darkness lasted. We had better try a way back southwards along the line of the cliff, I think, said Sam. We might find some nook there, or even a cave or something. Again, welcome everyone. I suppose so, said Frodo. I'm tired, and I don't think I can scramble among stones much longer tonight, though I grudge the delay. I wish there was a clear path in front of us. Then I'd go on till my legs gave way. They did not find the going any easier at the broken feet of the Emon Wheel, nor did Sam find any nook or hollow to shelter in. Only bare stony slopes frowned over by the cliff, which now rose again, higher and more sheer as they went back. In the end, worn out, they just cast themselves on the ground, under the lee of a boulder, lying not far from the foot of the precipice. There, for some time, they sat huddled mournfully together in the cold, stony night, while sleep crept upon them in spite of all they could do to hold it off. The moon now rode high and clear. Its thin white light lit up the faces of the rocks and drenched the cold, frowning walls of the cliff, turning all the wide, looming darkness into a chill, pale gray, scored with black shadows. Well, said Frodo, standing up and drawing his cloak more closely around him. You sleep for a bit, Sam, and take my blanket. I'll walk up and down on sentry for a while. Suddenly he stiffened, and stooping, he gripped Sam by the arm. What's that? He whispered. Look over there on the cliff. Sam looked and breathed in sharply through his teeth. He said, That's what it is. It's that golem. Snakes and adders. And to think that I thought that we'd puzzle him with our bit of a climb. Look at him, like a nasty crawling spider on a wall. Down the face of a precipice, sheer and almost smooth it seemed in the pale moonlight, a small black shape was moving with its thin limbs splayed out. Maybe its soft clinging hands and toes were finding crevices and holes that no hobbit could ever have seen or used, but it looked as if it had just been creeping down on sticky paths, like some large prowling thing of insect kind. and it was coming down head first, as if it was smelling its way. Now and again, it lifted its head slowly, turning its right back on its long, skinny neck, and the hobbits caught a glimpse of two small, pale, gleaming lights. Its eyes that blinked at the moon for a moment and then were quickly lidded again. "Do you think he can see us?" said Sam. "I don't know," said Frodo quietly, "but I think not. It is hard even for friendly eyes to see these elven cloaks. I cannot see you in the shadow even at a few paces, and I've heard that he doesn't like sun or moon." "Then why is he coming down just here?" asked Sam. "Quietly, Sam," said Frodo. "He can smell us, perhaps, and he can hear as keen as elves, I believe. I think he has heard something now. Our voices, probably. We did a lot of shouting way back there, and we were talking far too loudly until a minute ago." "Well, I'm sick of him," said Sam. "He's come once too often for me, and I'm going to have a word with him if I can. I don't suppose we could give him the slip now anyway." Drawing his gray hood well over his face, Sam crept stealthily towards the cliff. "Careful," whispered Frodo, coming behind. "Don't alarm him. He's much more dangerous than he looks." Welcome everyone again. The black crawling shape was now 3/4 of the way down, and perhaps 50 feet or less above the cliff's foot. Crouching stone still in the shadow of a large boulder, the hobbits watched him. He seemed to have come to a difficult passage or to be troubled about something. They could hear him snuffling, and now and again there was a harsh hiss of breath that sounded like a curse. He lifted his head, and they thought they heard him spit. Then he moved on again. Now they could hear his voice creaking and whistling. "Cautious, my precious. More haste, less speed. We mustn't risk our neck. Mustn't we, precious?" "No, precious." "Calm." He lifted his head again, blinked at the moon, and quickly shut his eyes. "We hate it," he hissed. "Nasty, nasty, shivery light it is. It spies on us, precious. It hurts our eyes." He was getting lower now, and the hisses become sharper and clearer. "Where is it? Where is it? My precious, my precious. It's ours, it is, and we want it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves. Where are they with my precious? Curse them, we hate them." "It doesn't sound as if he knew we were here, does it?" whispered Sam. "And what's his precious? Does he mean the—" "Shh!" breathed Frodo. "He's getting near now, near enough to hear a whisper." Indeed, Gollum had suddenly paused again, and his large head on his scrawny neck was lolling from side to side as if he was listening. His pale eyes were half unlidded. Sam restrained himself, though his fingers were twitching. His eyes, filled with anger and disgust, were fixed on the wretched creature as he now began to move again, still whispering and hissing to himself. Thank you, guys. At last he was no more than a dozen feet from the ground, right above their heads. From that point there was a sheer drop, for the cliff was slightly undercut, and even Gollum could not find a hold of any kind. He seemed to be trying to twist round so as to go legs first, when suddenly, with a shrill whistling shriek, he fell. As he did so, he curled his legs and arms around him, like a spider whose descending thread has snapped. Sam was out of his hiding in a flash and crossed the space between him and the cliff foot in a couple of leaps. Before Gollum could get up, he was on top of him, but he found Gollum more than he bargained for, even taken like that, suddenly off his guard after a fall. Before Sam could get a hold, long legs and arms were wound around him, pinning his arms. And a clinging grip, soft but horribly strong, was squeezing him like slowly tightening cords. Clamming fingers were feeling for his throat. Then sharp teeth bit into his shoulder. All he could do was to butt his head hard, his hard round head sideways into the creature's face. Gollum hissed and spat, but he did not let go. Things would have gone ill for Sam if he had been alone. But Frodo sprang up and drew Sting from its sheath. With his left hand, he drew back Gollum's head by his thin, lank hair, stretching his long neck and forcing his pale, venomous eyes to stare up at the sky. "Let go, Gollum," he said. "This is Sting. You've seen it before once upon a time. Let go or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throats." Gollum collapsed and went as loose as wet string. Sam got up, fingering his shoulder. His eyes smoldered with anger, but he could not avenge himself. His miserable enemy lay groveling on the stones, whimpering. Don't hurt us. Don't let them hurt us, precious. They won't hurt us, will they? Nice little hobbitses. We didn't mean no harm, but they jumps on us like cats on poor mices, they did, precious. And we're so lonely. Gollum, we'll be nice to them, very nice. If they'll be nice to us, won't we? Yes, yes. Well, what's to be done with it, said Sam. Tie it up so it can't come sneaking after us no more, I say. But that would kill us. Kill us, whimpered Gollum. Cruel little hobbitses! Tie us up in the cold hard lands and leave us! Gollum! Gollum! Sobs welled up in his gobbing throat. No, said Frodo. If we kill him, we must kill him outright. But we can't do that, not as things are. Poor wretch, he has done us no harm. Oh, hasn't he? Said Sam, rubbing his shoulder. Anyway, he meant to, and he means to, I'll warrant. Throttle us in our sleep. That's his plan. I dare say, said Frodo, but what he means to do is another matter. He paused for a while in thought. Gollum lay still, but stopped whimpering. Sam stood glowering over him. It seemed to Frodo then that he heard, quite plainly but far off, voices out of the past. What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had a chance. Pity. It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. Deserves death? I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some die that deserve life. Can you give that to them? Then be not too eager to deal out death in the name of justice, fearing for your own safety. Even the wise cannot see all ends. Very well, he answered aloud, lowering his sword. But still I am afraid, and yet as you see, I will not touch the creature. For now that I see him, I do pity him. Sam stared at his master, who seemed to be speaking to someone who was not there. Gollum lifted his head. Yes, wretched we are, precious, he whined. Misery, misery. Hobbits won't kill us. Nice hobbits. No, we won't, said Frodo. We won't let you go either. You're full of wickedness and mischief, Gollum. You will have to come with us, that's all, while we keep an eye on you. But you must help us, if you can. One good turn deserves another. Yes, yes, indeed, said Gollum, sitting up. Nice hobbits. We will come with them. Find them safe paths in the dark. Yes, we will. And where are they going in these cold, hard lands, we wonders. Yes, we wonders. He looked up at them, and a faint light of cunning and eagerness flickered for a second in his pale, blinking eyes. Sam scowled at him and sucked his teeth, but he seemed to sense that there was something odd about his master's mood, and that the matter was beyond argument. All the same, he was amazed at Frodo's reply. Frodo looked straight into Gollum's eyes, which flinched and twisted away. You know that, or you guess well enough, Smeagol, he said quietly and sternly. We are going to Mordor, of course, and you know the way, I believe. Ah, said Gollum, covering his ears with his hands as if such frankness and the opening speaking of the names hurt him. We guessed, yes, we guessed, he whispered, and we didn't want them to go, did we? No, precious, not the nice hobbits. Ashes and dust and thirst there is. Pits, and orcs, thousands of orcs. Nice hobbits mustn't go to those places. It's not easy doing Gollum's voice. So you've been there, Frodo insisted, and you're being drawn back there, aren't you? Yes, yes. No! Shrieked Gollum. Once by accident it was. Wasn't it, precious? Yes, by accident. But we won't go back. No, no. Then suddenly his voice and language changed, and he sobbed in his throat and spoke, but not to them. Leave me alone, Gollum. You hurt me. Oh, my poor hands. Gollum! I don't want to come back. I can't find it. I am tired. We can't find it. Gollum! No, nowhere. They're always awake. Dwarves and men and elves. Terrible elves with bright eyes. I can't find it. He got up and clenched his long hand into a bony, fleshless knot, shaking it towards the east. We won't, he cried. Not for you. Then he collapsed again. Gollum! He whimpered with his face to the ground. Don't look at us. Go away. Go to sleep. He will not go away or go to sleep at your command, Smeagol, said Frodo. But if you really wish to be free of him again, then you must help me. And that, I fear, means finding us a path towards him. But you need not go all the way. Not beyond the gates of his land. Gollum sat up again and looked at him under his eyelids. He's over there, he cackled. Always there. Orcs will take you all the way. Easy to find orcs east of the river. Don't ask Smeagol. Poor Smeagol. He went away long ago. They took his precious, and he's lost now. Perhaps we'll find him again if you come with us, said Frodo. No, never. He's lost his precious, said Gollum. Get up, said Frodo. Gollum stood up and backed away against the cliff. Now, said Frodo, can you find a path easier by day or by night? We're tired, but if you choose the night, we'll start tonight. The peak light hurts our eyes. They do, Gollum whined. Not under the white face. Not yet. It will go behind the hills soon. Yes. Rest a bit, nice hobbits. Then sit down, said Frodo, and don't move. The hobbits seated themselves beside him, one on either side, with their backs to the stony wall, resting their legs. There was no need for any arrangement by word. They knew that they must not sleep for a moment. Slowly the moon went by. Shadows fell down from the hills, and all grew dark before them. The stars grew thick and bright in the sky above. No one stirred. Gollum sat with his legs drawn up, knees under chin, flat hands and feet splayed on the ground, his eyes closed. But he seemed tense, as if thinking or listening. Frodo looked across at Sam. Their eyes met and they understood. They relaxed, leaning their heads back and shutting their eyes or seeming to. Soon the sound of their soft breathing could be heard. Gollum's hands twitched a little. Hardly perceptibly, his head moved to the left and the right, and first one eye and then the other opened and slit. The hobbits made no sign. Suddenly, with startling agility and speed, straight off the ground with a jump like a grasshopper or a frog, Gollum bounded forward into the darkness. But that was just what Frodo and Sam had expected. Sam was on him before he had gone 2 paces after his spring. Frodo, coming in from behind, grabbed his leg and threw him. Your rope must prove useful again. Your rope might prove useful again, Sam, he said. Sam got out the rope. And where were you off to? In the cold, hard lands, Mr. Gollum, he growled. We wonders. To find some of your orc friends, I warrant. You nasty, treacherous creature. It's round your neck this rope ought to go, and a tight noose, too. Gollum lay quiet and tried no further tricks. He did not answer Sam, but gave him a swift, venomous look. All we need is something to keep a hold of on him, said Frodo. We want him to walk, so it's no good tying his legs, or his arms. He seems to use them nearly as much. Tie one end to his ankle, and keep a grip on the other ends. He stood over Gollum, while Sam tied the knot. The result surprised them both. Gollum began to scream, a thin, tearing sound was very horrible to hear. He writhed and tried to get his mouth to his ankle and bite the rope. He kept on screaming. At last Frodo was convinced that he really was in pain, but it could not be from the knot. He examined it and found that it was not too tight. Indeed, hardly tight enough. Sam was gentler than his words. What's the matter with you, he said. If you will try to run away, you must be tied. We don't wish to hurt you. It hurts us, hissed Gollum. It freezes, it bites. Elves twisted it. Curse them. Nasty, cruel hobbits. That's why we try to escape. Of course it is precious. We guessed they were cruel hobbits. They visit elves. Fierce elves with bright eyes. Take it off us. It hurts us. Welcome, everyone. No, I will not take it off you, said Frodo. Not unless, he paused a moment and thought, not unless there is any promise you can make that I can trust. We will swear to do what you want. Yes, said Gollum, still twisting and grabbing at his ankle. It hurts us. Swear, said Frodo. Smeagol, said Gollum suddenly and clearly opening his eyes wide and staring at Frodo with strange light. Smeagol will swear on the precious. Frodo drew himself up, and again Sam was startled by his words and his stern voice. On the precious. How dare you, he said. Think. One ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. Would you commit your promise to that, Smeagol? It will hold you, but it is more treacherous than you are. It may twist your words. Beware. Gollum cowered. On the precious, he repeated. And what would you swear? Asked Frodo. To be very good, said Gollum. Then crawling to Frodo's feet, he groveled before him, whispering hoarsely. A shudder ran over him, as if the words shook him his very bones with fear. Smeagol will swear never to let him have it. Never. Smeagol will save it. But he must swear on the precious. No, not on it, said Frodo, looking down at him with stern pity. All you wish is to see it and touch it if you can, though you know it would drive you mad. Not on it. Swear by it, if you will, for you know where it is. Yes, you know, Smeagol. It is before you. For a moment it appeared to Sam that his master had grown and Gollum had shrunk. A tall, stern shadow, a mighty lord who hid his brightness in grey cloak, and at his feet a little whining dog. Yet the two were in some way akin, and not alien. They could reach one another's minds. Gollum raised himself and began pawing at Frodo, fawning at his knees. Down, down, said Frodo. Now speak your promise. We promises. Yes, I promise, said Gollum. I will serve the master of the precious. Good master, good Smeagol. Gollum, Gollum. He suddenly began to weep and bite at his ankle again. Take the rope off, Sam, said Frodo. Reluctantly, Sam obeyed. At once, Gollum got up and began prancing about, like a whipped cur whose master had patted it. From that moment, a change, which lasted for some time, came over him. He spoke with less hissing and whining, and he spoke to his companions direct, not to his precious self. He would cringe and flinch if they stepped near him, or made even sudden movement, and he avoided the touch of their elven cloaks, but he was friendly, and indeed pitifully anxious to please. He would cackle with laughter and caper if any jest was made, or even if Frodo spoke kindly to him, and weep if Frodo rebuked him. Sam said little to him of any sort. He suspected him more deeply than ever, and if possible liked the new Gollum, the Smeagol, less than the old. Well, Gollum, or whatever it is we're to call you, he said, now for it. The moon's gone and the night's going. We better start. Yes, yes, agreed Gollum, skipping about. Off we go. There's only one way. Cross between the north end and the south end. I found it, I did. Orcs don't use it. Orcs don't know it. Orcs don't cross the marshes. They go round for miles and miles. Very lucky you came this way. Very lucky you found Smeagol. Yes, follow Smeagol. He took a few steps away and looked back inquiringly, like a dog inviting them for a walk. Wait a bit, Gollum, cried Sam. Not too far ahead now. I'm going to be at your tail, and I've got the rope handy. No, no, said Gollum. Smeagol, promise. In the deep of night, under hard, clear stars, they set off. Gollum led them back northward for a while along the way they had come. Then he slanted to the right, away from the steep edge of the Immen Wheel, down the broken stony slopes towards the vast fens below. They faded swiftly and softly into the darkness. Over all the leagues of waste before the gates of Mordor, there was a black silence. I'm going to pause here as I knock my phone off my desk to take a swig of water before we begin Chapter 2, where we find the passages of the marshes, or the Dead Marshes, as they're known for. No, Smeagol just calls it that, Mike. He calls it his precious. So. Sorry, let me see how long this is. Okay. My voice is going to be hurting tomorrow. But. Chapter 2, The Passage of the Marshes. Gollum moved quickly, with his head and neck thrust forward, often using his hands as well as his feet. Frodo and Sam were hard put to it to keep up with them, but he seemed no longer to have any thought of escaping, and as they fell behind, he would turn and wait for them. After a time, he brought them to the brink of the narrow gully that they had struck before, but they were now further from the hills. Here it is, he cried. There is a way down inside. Yes. Now we follows it. Out away over there. He pointed south and east towards the marshes. The reek of them came to their nostrils, heavy and foul even in the cool night air. Gollum cast up and down along the brink, and at length he called to them. Here! We can get down here. Smeagol went this way once. I went this way, hiding from orcs. He led the way, and following him the hobbits climbed down into the gloom. It was not difficult, for the rift was at this point only some 15 feet deep, and about a dozen across. There was running water at the bottom. It was in fact the bed of one of the many small rivers that trickled down from the hills to feed the stagnant pools and mires beyond. Gollum turned to the right, southward more or less, splashed along with his feet in the shallow stony stream. He seemed greatly delighted to feel the water, and chuckled to himself, sometimes even croaking in a sort of song. The cold hard lands, they bites our hands, they gnaws our feet. The rocks and stones are like old bones, all bare of meat. But stream and pool is wet and cool, so nice for feet. And now we wish. Aha, what is we wish? Why is we wish? He said, looking inside long at the hobbits. We'll tell you, he croaked. He guessed it long ago. Baggins guessed it. A glint came into his eyes, and Sam, catching the gleam in the darkness, thought it was far from pleasant. Alive without breath, as cold as death, never thirsting, never drinking, clad in mail, never clinking, drowns on dry land, thinks an island, is a mountain. Thinks a fountain is a puff of air. So sleek, so fair. What a joy to meet. We only wish to catch a fish. So juicy sweet. These words only made more pressing to Sam's mind a problem that had been troubling him from a moment when he understood that his master was going to adopt Gollum as a guide. The problem of food. It did not occur to him that his master might have also thought of it, but he supposed Gollum had. Indeed, how had Gollum kept himself in all his lonely wandering? Not too well, thought Sam. He looks fair and famished. Not too dainty to try what hobbits taste like. If there ain't no fish, I'll wager, supposing he could catch us napping. Well, he won't. Not Sam Gamgee, for once. They stumbled along in the dark, winding gully for a long time, or so it seemed to the tired feet of Frodo and Sam. The gully turned eastward, and as they went on, it broadened and got gradually shallower. At last the sky grew faint, and with the first gray of morning. Gollum had shown no signs of tiring, but now he looked up and halted. Day's near, he whispered, as if day was something that might overhear him and spring on him. Smeagol will stay here. I will stay here, and the yellow face won't see me. We should be glad to see the sun, said Frodo, but we will stay here. We are too tired to go any further at present. You are not wise to be glad of the yellow face, said Gollum. It shows you up. Nice, sensible hobbits, stay with Smeagol. Orcs and nasty things are about. They can see a long way. Stay and hide with me. The three of them settled down to rest at the foot of the rocky wall of the gully. It was not much more than a tall man's height now, and at its base there were wide flat shelves of dry stone. The water ran in a channel on the other side. Frodo and Sam sat on one of the flats, resting their backs. Gollum paddled and scrabbled in the stream. We must take a little food, said Frodo. Are you hungry, Smeagol? We have very little to share, but we will spare you what we can. At the word hungry, a greenish light was kindled in Gollum's pale eyes, and they seemed to protrude further than ever from his thin, sickly face. For a moment he relapsed into his old Gollum manner. We are famished. Yes, famished we are, precious, he said. What is it they eat? Have they nice fishes? His tongue lolled out between his sharp yellow teeth, licking his colorless lips. No, we have got no fish, said Frodo. We have only got this. He held up a wafer of lambas. And water, if the water here is fit to drink. Yes, nice water, said Gollum. Drink it while we can. But what is it they got, precious? Is it crunchable? Is it tasty? Frodo broke off a portion of a wafer and handed it to him on its leaf wrapping. Gollum sniffed as the leaf, and his face changed. A spasm of disgust came over it, and a hint of his old malice. Smeagol smells it, he said. Leaves out of the elf country. They stinks. He climbed in those trees, and he couldn't wash the smell off his hands. My nice hands. Dropping the leaf, he took a corner of the lembas and nibbled it. He spat, and a fit of coughing shook him. No, he sputtered. You try to choke poor Smeagol. Dust and ashes, he can't eat that. He must starve. But Smeagol doesn't mind. Nice hobbits. Smeagol has promised. He will starve. He can't eat hobbits' food. He will starve. Poor thin Smeagol. I'm sorry, said Frodo, but I can't help you, I'm afraid. I think this food would do you good if you would try. Perhaps you can't even try. Not yet, anyway. The hobbits munched their lembas in silence. Sam thought that it tasted far better, somehow, than it had for a good while. Gollum's behavior had made him attend to its flavor again. But he did not feel comfortable. Gollum watched every morsel from hand to mouth, like an expectant dog by a diner's chair. Only when they had finished and were preparing to rest, was he apparently convinced that they had no hidden dainties that he could share in. Then he went and sat by himself a few paces away and whimpered a little. Look here, Sam whispered to Frodo, not too softly. He did not really care whether Gollum heard him or not. We've got to get some sleep, but not both together with that hungry villain nigh. Promise or no promise. Smeagol or Gollum, he won't change his habits in a hurry. I'll warrant. You go to sleep, Mr. Frodo, and I'll call you when I can't keep my eyelids propped up. Turn and about, same as before, while he's loose. Perhaps you're right, Sam, said Frodo, speaking openly. There is a change in him, but just what kind of change and how deep, I'm not sure yet. Seriously, though, I don't think there is any need for fear at present. Still watch if you wish. Give me about 2 hours, not more, and then you call me. So tired was Frodo that his head fell forward on his breast and he slept almost as soon as he had spoken the words. Gollum seemed no longer to have any fears. He curled up and went quickly to sleep, quite unconcerned. Presently his breath was hissing softly through his clenched teeth, but he lay still as stone. After a while, that he would drop off himself if he sat listening to his two companions breathing, Sam got up and gently prodded Gollum. His hands uncurled and twitched, but he made no other movement. Sam bent down and said "fish" close to his ear, but there was no response, not even a catch in Gollum's breathing. Sam scratched his head. Must really be asleep, he muttered. And if I was like Gollum, he wouldn't wake up never again. He restrained the thoughts of his sword and the rope that sprang to his mind, and went and sat down by his master. When he woke up, the sky above was dim, not lighter, but darker than when they had breakfast. Sam leapt to his feet, not least from his own feeling of vigor and hunger. He suddenly understood that he had slept the daylight away, 9 hours at least. Frodo was still fast asleep, lying now stretched on his side. Gollum was not to be seen. Various reproachful names for himself came to Sam's mind, drawn from the Gaffer's large paternal word hoard. Then it also occurred to him that his master had been right. There had been for the present been nothing to guard against. They were at any rate both alive and unthrottled. Poor wretch, he said half remorsefully. Now I wonder where he's got to. Not far, said a voice above him. He looked up and saw the shape of Gollum's large head and ears against the evening sky. Here, what are you doing? Cried Sam, his suspicions coming back as soon as he saw that shape. Smeagol is hungry, said Gollum. Be back soon. Come back now, shouted Sam. Hi, come back, but Gollum had vanished. Frodo woke at the sound of Sam's shout and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Hello, he said. Anything wrong? What's the time? I don't know, said Sam. After sundown, I reckon, and he's gone off. Says he's hungry. Don't worry, said Frodo. There's no help for it, but he'll come back, you'll see. The promise will hold yet a while, and he won't leave his precious anyway. Frodo made light of it when he learned that they had slept soundly for hours with Gollum, and a very hungry Gollum, too, loose beside them. Don't think of any of your Gaffer's harsh, hard names, he said. You were worn out, and it's turned out well. We are now both rested, and we have a hard road ahead, the worst road of all. About the food, said Sam. How long is it going to take us to do this job? And when it's done, what are we going to do then? This whey bread keeps you on your legs in a wonderful way, though it doesn't satisfy the innards proper, as you might say. Not to my feeling, anyhow. Meaning no disrespect to them has made it. But you have to eat some of it every day, and it doesn't grow. I reckon we've got enough to last, say, 3 weeks or so, and without a tight belt and a light tooth, mind you. But you've been a bit free with it so far. I don't know how long we shall take to finish, said Frodo. We were miserably delayed in the hills. But Samwise Gamgee, my dear hobbit, indeed, Sam, my dearest hobbit friend of friends, I do not think we need to give thought to what comes after that. To do the job as you put it, what hope is there that we ever shall? And if we do, who knows what will come of it? If the one goes into the fire, and we are at hand, I ask you, Sam, are we ever likely to need bread again? I think not. If we can nurse our limbs to bring us to Mount Doom, that is all we can do. More than I can, I begin to feel. Sam nodded silently. He took his master's hand and bent over it. He did not kiss it, though his tears fell on it. Then he turned away, drew his sleeve over his nose, and got up, and stamped about, trying to whistle, and saying between the efforts, "Where's that dratted creature?" It was actually not long before Gollum returned, but he came so quietly they did not hear him, till he stood before them. His fingers and face were soiled with black mud. He was still chewing and slavering. What he was chewing, they did not ask or like to think. Worms or beetles or something slimy out of the holes, thought Sam. The nasty creature, the poor wretch. Gollum said nothing to them until he had drunk deeply and washed himself in the stream. Then he came up to them, licking his lips. Better now, he said. Are we rested? Ready to go on? Nice hobbits. They sleep beautifully. Trust Smeagol now? Very, very good. The next stage of their journey was much the same as the last. As they went on, the gully became ever shallower and the slope of its floor more gradual. Its bottom was less stony and more earthy, and slowly its sides dwindled to mere banks. It began to wind and wander. That night drew to its end, but the clouds were now over moon and star, and they knew of the coming of day only by the slow spreading of the thin gray lights. In a chill hour, they came to the end of the watercourse. The banks became moss-grown mounds. Over the last shelf of rotting stone, the stream gurgled and fell down into a brown bog and was lost. Dry reeds hissed and rattled, though they could feel no wind. On either side, in front, wide fens and mires now lay stretching way southward and eastward into the dim half-light. Mist curled and smoke from dark and noisome pools. The reek of them hung stifling in the still air. Far away, now almost due south, the mountain walls of Mordor loomed, like a black bar of rugged clouds floating above a dangerous fog-bound sea. The hobbits were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. They did not know and could not guess in that misty light that they were in fact only just within the northern borders of the marshes, the main expanse of which lay south of them. They could, if they had known the lands, with some delay had retraced their steps a little, and then, turning east, have come round over hard roads to the bare plain of Dagorlad, the field of the ancient battle before the gates of Mordor. Not that there was great hope in such a course. On that stony plain there was no cover, and across it ran the highways of the Yorks and the soldiers of the enemy. Not even the cloaks of Lorien would have concealed them there. "How do we shape our course now, Smeagol?" asked Frodo. "Must we cross this evil-smelling fens?"
No, no need. No need at all," said Gollum. "Not if hobbits want to reach the Dark Mountains and go to see 'em very quickly. Back a little, and round a little," his skinny arm waved north and east, "and you can come on hard, cold roads to the very gates of his country. Lots of his people will be there, looking for our guests, very pleased to take them straight to him. Oh yes, his eye watches that way all the time. It caught Smeagol there, long ago," Gollum shuddered. "But Smeagol used his eyes then, since then. Yes, yes, I've used eyes and feet, and know since then. I know other ways, more difficult, not so quick, but better. If we don't want him to see, follow Smeagol. He can take you through he can take you through the marshes, through the mists, nice thick mists. Follow Smeagol very carefully, and you may go a long way, quite a long way, before he catches you. Yes, perhaps."
It was already day, a windless and sullen morning, and the marsh reeks lay in heavy banks. No sun pierced the low clouded sky, and Gollum seemed anxious to continue the journey at once. So after a brief rest they set out again, and were soon lost in the shadowy silent world, cut off from all view of the lands about, either the hills that they had left or the mountains that they sought. They went slowly in single file, Gollum and Sam and Frodo. Frodo seemed the most weary of the three, and slow though they went, he often lagged. The hobbits soon found that what had looked like one vast fen was really an endless network of pools, and soft mires, and winding half-strangled watercourses. Among these, a cunning eye and foot could thread a wandering path. Gollum certainly had that cunning, and needed all of it. His head on its long neck was ever turning it this way and that, while he sniffed and muttered all the time to himself. Sometimes he would hold up his hand and halt them, while he went forward a little, crouching and testing the ground with fingers or toes, or merely listening with one ear pressed to the earth. It was dreary and wearisome. Cold, clammy winter still held sway in this forsaken country. The only green was a scum of livid weed on the dark, greasy surfaces of the sullen waters. Dead grasses and rotting reeds loomed up in the mist like ragged shadows of long-forgotten summers. As the day wore on, the light increased a little, and the mist lifted, growing thinner and more transparent. Far above the rot and vapors of the world, the sun was riding high and golden, now in a serene country with flowers of dazzling foam, but only a passing ghost of her they could see below, bleared, pale, giving no color and no warmth. But even at this faint reminder of her presence, Gollum scowled and flinched. He halted their journey, and they rested, squatting like little hunted animals in the borders of a great brown reed thicket. There was a deep silence, only scraped on the surface by the faint quiver of empty seed plumes, and broken grass blades trembled in small air movements that they could not feel. "Not a bird," said Sam mournfully.
"No, no birds," said Gollum. "Nice birds," he licked his teeth. "No birds here. There are snakeses, wormses, things in the pools. Lots of things. Lots of nasty things. No birds," he ended sadly. Sam looked at him with distaste. So passed the third day of their journey with Gollum. Before the shadows of evening were long and happier lands, they went on again, always on and on with only brief halts. These they made not so much for rest as to help Gollum, for now even he had to go forward with great care, and he was sometimes at a loss for a while. They had come to the very midst of the dead marshes, and it was dark. They walked slowly, stooping, keeping close in line, following attentively every move that Gollum made. The fens grew more wet. opening into wide, stagnant meres, among which it grew more and more difficult to find the firmer places where feet could tread without sinking into gurgling mud. The travelers were light, or maybe none of them would ever have found a way through. Presently, it grew altogether dark. The air itself seemed black and heavy to breathe. When lights appeared, Sam rubbed his eyes. He thought his head was going queer. He first saw one with the corner of his left eye, a wisp of pale sheen that faded away. But others appeared. Soon after, some like dimly shining smoke, some like misty flames flickering slowly above unseen candles. Here and there they twisted like ghostly sheets unfurled by hidden hands. But neither of his companions spoke a word. At last Sam could bear it no longer. "What's all this, Gollum?" he said in a whisper. "These lights. They're all around us now. Are we trapped? Who are they?" Sorry. Gollum looked up. A dark water was before him, and he was crawling on the ground, this way and that, doubtful of the way. "Yes, they're all around us," he whispered. "The tricksy lights. Candles of corpses. Yes, yes. Don't you heed them. Don't look. Don't you follow them. Where's the master?" Sam looked back and found that Frodo had lagged again. He could not see him. He went some paces back into the darkness, not daring to move far, or to call on more than a hoarse whisper. Suddenly he stumbled against Frodo, who was standing lost in thought, looking at the pale lights. His hand hung stiff at his sides. Water and slime were dripping from them. "Come, Mr. Frodo," said Sam. "Don't look at them. Gollum says we mustn't. Let's keep with them and get out of this cursed place as quick as we can, if we can." "All right," said Frodo, as if returning out of a dream. "I'm coming. Go on." Hurrying forward again, Sam tripped, catching his foot in some old root or tussock. He fell and came heavily on his hand, which sank deep into sticky ooze, so that his face was brought close to the surface of the dark mirror. There was a faint hiss, a noisome smell went up. The lights flickered and danced and swirled. For a moment the water below him looked like some window, glazed with grimy glass, through which he was peering. Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he sprang back with a cry. "There are dead things! Dead faces in the water!" he said with horror. "Dead faces!" Gollum laughed. "The dead marshes? Yes, yes, that is their name," he cackled. "You should not look in when the candles are lit." "Who are they? What are they?" asked Sam, shuddering, turning to Frodo, who was now behind him. "I don't know," said Frodo in a dreamlike voice, "but I've seen them too. In the pools when the candles were lit. They lie in all the pools, pale faces, deep, deep under the dark water. I saw them, grim faces and evil, and noble faces and sad. Many faces proud and fair, and weeds in their silver hair, but all foul, all rotting, all dead. A fell light is in them." Frodo hid his eyes in his hands. "I know not who they are, but I thought I saw them, saw their men and elves, and orcs beside them." "Yes, yes," said Gollum. "All dead, all rotten. Elves and men and orcs. The dead marshes. There was a great battle long ago. Yes, so they told when Smeagol was young. When I was young, before the Precious came, there was a great battle. Tall men with long swords and terrible elves and orcs shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the Black Gates. But the marshes have grown since then, swallowed up the graves, always creeping, creeping." But that is an age and more ago," said Sam. "The dead can't be really there. Is it some devilry hatched in the dark land?" "Who knows? Smeagol doesn't know," answered Gollum. "You cannot reach them. You cannot touch them. We tried once. Yes, Precious, I tried once. But you cannot reach them. Only shapes to see, perhaps, not to touch. No, Precious, all dead." Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. "Well, I don't want to see them," he said. "Never again. Can't we get on and get away?" "Yes, yes," said Gollum, "but slowly, very carefully. Our hobbits go down to join the dead ones and light little candles. Follow Smeagol. Don't look at the lights." He crawled away to the right, seeking for a path around the mirror. They came close behind, stooping often and using their hands even as he did. Three precious little golems in a row we shall be, if this goes on much longer," thought Sam. At last they came to the end of the black mirror, and they crossed it, perilously crawling or hopping from one treacherous island tussock to another. Often they floundered, stepping or falling hands first into waters as noisome as a cesspool, until they were slimed and fouled almost up their necks, and stank in one another's nostrils. It was late in the night when when at length they reached firmer ground again. Gollum hissed and whispered to himself, but it appeared that he was pleased. In some mysterious way, by some blended sense of feel and smell and uncanny memory for shapes in the dark, he seemed to know just where he was again, and to be sure of his road ahead. Now on we go, he said. Nice hobbits, brave hobbits. Very, very weary, of course. So we are, my precious, all of us, but we must take Master away from the wicked lights. Yes, yes, we must. With these words, he started off again, almost at a trot, down what appeared to be a long lane between high reeds, and they stumbled after him as quickly as they could. But in a little while, he stopped suddenly and sniffed the air doubtfully, hissing as if he were troubled and displeased again. What is it? Growled Sam, misinterpreting the signs. What's the need to sniff? The stink nearly knocks me down with my nose held. You stink and Master stinks. The whole place stinks. Yes, yes, and Sam stinks, answered Gollum. Poor Smeagol smells it, but good Smeagol bears it. Help us, nice Master. But that's no matter. The air is moving. Change is coming. Smeagol wonders. He's not happy. Thank you for the $2 super chat, Southeastern Kaiju, for the 2 towers, yes. He went on again, but his uneasiness grew, and every now and again he stood up to his full height, craning his neck eastward and southward. For some time the hobbits could not hear or feel what was troubling him. Then suddenly all three halted, stiffening and listening to Frodo. Listening to Frodo and Sam, it seemed that they had heard, far away, a long wailing cry. High and thin and cruel. They shivered. At the same moment the stirring of the air became perceptible to them, and it grew very cold. As they stood straining their ears, they heard a noise like a wind coming in the distance. The misty lights wavered, dimmed, and went out. Gollum would not move. He stood shaking and gibbering to himself until, with the rush wind came upon them, hissing and snarling over the marshes. The night became less dark, light enough for them to see, or half see, as shapeless strips of fog, curling and twisting as it rolled over them and past them. Looking up, they saw the clouds breaking and shredding, and then high in the south the moon glimmered out, riding in the flying wrack. For a moment, the sight of it gladdened the hearts of the hobbits, but Gollum cowered down, muttering curses on the white face. Then Frodo and Sam, staring up at the sky, breathing deeply of the fresher air, saw it come. A small cloud flying from the accursed hills, a black shadow loosed from Mordor. A vast shape, winged and ominous. It scudded across the moon, and with a deadly cry went away westward, outrunning the wind in its fell speed. They fell forward, groveling heedlessly on the cold earth, but the shadow of horror wheeled and returned, passing lower now, right above them, sweeping into Fenrock Reek with its ghastly wings. And then it was gone, flying back to Mordor with the speed of the wrath of Sauron. And behind it the wind roared away, leaving the dead marshes bare and bleak. The naked waste, as far as the eye could pierce, even to the distant menace of the mountains, was dappled with a fitful moon. Frodo and Sam got up, rubbing their eyes, like children wakened from an evil dream to find the familiar night still over the world. But Gollum lay on the ground as if he had been stunned. They roused him with difficulty, and for some time he would not lift his face, but knelt forward on his elbows, covering the back of his head with his large flat hand. Wraiths, he wailed. Wraiths on wings! The precious is their master. They see everything. Everything. Nothing can hide from them. Curse the white face. And they tell him everything. He sees. He knows. Gollum! 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 It was not until the moon had sunk westering far away beyond Tol Brandir that he would get up or make a move. From that time on, Sam thought that he had sensed a change in Gollum again. He was more fawning and would be friendly, but Sam surprised some strange looks in his eyes at times, especially towards Frodo, and he went back more and more into his old manner of speaking. And Sam had another growing anxiety. Frodo seemed to be weary to the point of exhaustion. He said nothing, indeed he hardly spoke at all, and he did not complain, but he walked like one who carries a load, the weight of which is ever increasing, and he dragged along, slower and slower, so that Sam had often to beg Gollum to wait and not to leave their master behind. Sorry, I have to take another swig of water, because, like I said, doing Gollum's voice is not easy. Alright.
In fact, at every step towards the gates of Mordor, Frodo felt the ring on its chain about his neck grow more burdensome. He was now beginning to feel it an actual weight dragging him earthwards. But far more he was troubled by the eye, so he called it to himself. It was sorry. It was that more than the drag of the ring that made him cower and stoop as he walked. The eye, that horrible growing sense of a hostile will that strove with great power to pierce all shadows of cloud and earth and flesh, and to see you, to pin you under its deadly gaze, naked, immovable, so thin, so frail and thin, the veils were become that still warded it off. Frodo knew just where the present habitation and heart of that will now was, as certainly as a man can tell the direction of the sun with his eyes shut. He was facing it, and its potency beat upon his brow. Gollum probably felt something of the same sort. But what went on in his wretched heart between the pressure of the eye and the lust of the ring that was so near, and his groveling promise made half in the fear of old cold iron, the hobbits did not guess. Frodo gave no thought to it. Sam's mind was occupied mostly with his master, hardly noticing the dark cloud that had fallen on his own heart. He put Frodo in front of him now, and kept a watchful eye on every movement of his, supporting him if he stumbled, and trying to encourage him with clumsy words. When day came at last, the hobbits were surprised to see how much closer the ominous mountains had already drawn. The air was now clearer and colder, and though still far off, the walls of Mordor were no longer a cloudy menace on the edge of sight, but as grim black towers they frowned across a dismal waste. The marshes were at an end, dying away into dead peaks and wide flats of dry, cracked mud. The land ahead rose in long, shallow slopes, barren and pitiless, towards the desert that lay at Sauron's gates. While the gray light lasted, they cowered under a black stone, like worms shrinking, lest the winged terror should pass and spy them with its cruel eyes. The remainder of that journey was the shadow of growing fear in which the memory could find nothing to rest upon. For 2 more nights they struggled on through the weary, pathless land. The air, as it seemed to them, grew harsh and filled with a bitter reek that caught their breath and parched their mouths. At last, on the 5th morning since they took the road with Gollum, they halted once more. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now at the nearest source scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked around in horror. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the Noman lands were more loathsome far was the country that was crawling. I cannot read today. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the Noman lands, more loathsome far was the country that the crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mirror of dead faces, with some haggard phantom of green spring would come. But here neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that feed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and gray, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crushed and powdered rock, great cones of earth fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labor of its slaves that should endure when all their purposes were made void. A land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea would enter it and wash it with oblivion. "I feel sick," said Sam. Frodo did not speak. For a while they stood there, like men on the edge of a sleep where nightmare lurks, holding it off, though they know that they can only come to a morning through the shadows. The light broadened and hardened. The gasping pits and poisonous mounds grew hideously clear. The sun was up, walking among clouds and long flags of smoke, but even the sunlight was defiled. The hobbits had no welcome for that light. Unfriendly, it seemed, revealing them in their helplessness, little squeaking ghosts that had wandered among the ash heaps of the Dark Lord. Thank you all for being here. Too weary to go further, they sought for some place where they could rest. For a while they sat without speaking under the shadow of a mound of slag, but foul fumes leaked out of it, catching their throats and choking them. Gollum was the first to get up. Spluttering and cursing he rose, and without a word or glance at the hobbits, he crawled away on all fours. Frodo and Sam crawled after him until they came to a wide, almost circular pit, high banked upon the west. It was cold and dead, and a foul stump of oily, many-colored ooze lay at its bottom. In this evil hole they cowered, hoping in its shadow to escape the attention of the eye. The day passed slowly. A great thirst troubled them, but they drank only a few drops from their bottles. Last filled in the gully, which now as they looked back in thought seemed to them a place of peace and beauty. The hobbits took it in turn to watch. At first, tired as they were, neither of them could sleep at all. But as the sun far away was climbing down into a slow-moving cloud, Sam dozed. It was Frodo's turn to be on guard. He lay back on the slope of the pit, but that did not ease the sense of burden that was on him. He looked up at the smoke-streaked sky and saw strange phantoms, dark riding shapes and faces out of the past. He lost count of time, hovering between sleep and waking, until forgetfulness came over him. Suddenly Sam woke up, thinking that he heard his master calling. It was evening. Frodo could not have called, for he had fallen asleep, and had slid down nearly to the bottom of the pit. Gollum was by him. For a moment Sam thought he was trying to rouse Frodo, then he saw that it was not so. Gollum was talking to himself. Smeagol was holding a debate with some other thought that used the same voice, but made it squeak and hiss. A pale light and green light altered in his eyes as he spoke.
Smeagol promised, said the first thought. Yes, yes, my precious, came the answer. We promised to save our precious, not to let him have it. Ever. But it's going to him. Yes, nearer every step. What's the hobbit going to do with it? We wonders. Yes, we wonders. I don't know. I can't help it. Master's got it. Smeagol promised to help the master. Yes, yes, to help the master of the precious. But if he was master, then we could help ourselves. Yes, and we still keep promises. But Smeagol said he would be very good, nice hobbit. He took cruel rope off Smeagol's leg. He speaks nicely to me. Very, very good, hey, my precious. Let's be good. Good as fish, sweet one, but to ourselves. Not hurt the nice hobbit, of course, no, no. But the precious holds the promise, the voice of Smeagol objected. Then take it, said the other, and let's hold it to ourselves. Then we shall be the master. Gollum. Make the other hobbit, the nasty, suspicious hobbit, make him crawl. Yes, Gollum. But not the nice hobbit? Oh no, not if it doesn't please us. Still he's a Baggins, my precious. Yes, a Baggins. A Baggins stole it. He found it and he said nothing. Nothing. We hate Bagginses. No, not this Baggins. Yes, every Baggins. All people that keep the precious. We must have it. But he'll see. He'll know. He'll take it from us. He sees. He knows. He heard us make silly promises. Against his orders, yes. Must take it. The wraiths are searching. Must take it. Not for him. No, sweet one. See, my precious. If we has it, then we can escape even from him. Eh? Perhaps we grows very strong. Stronger than the wraiths. Lord Smeagol. Gollum the Greats. The Gollum. Eat fish every day. 3 times a day. Fresh from the sea. Most precious Gollum. Must have it. We wants it. We wants it. We wants it. But there's 2 of them. They'll wake too quick and kill us, whined Smeagol in a last effort. Not now. Not yet. We wants it. But, and here there was a long pause, as if a new thought had awakened. Not yet, hey? Perhaps not. She might help. She might. Yes. No, no, not that way, wailed Smeagol. Yes, we wants it. We wants it. Sorry. Each time that the second thought spoke, Gollum's long hand crept out slowly, pawing towards Frodo, and then was drawn back with a jerk as Smeagol spoke again. Finally, both arms, with long fingers flexed and twitching, clawed towards his neck. Sam had lain still, fascinated by this debate, but watching every move that Gollum made from under his half-closed eyelids. To his simple mind, ordinary hunger, the desire to eat hobbits, had seemed the chief danger in Gollum. He realized now that it was not so. Gollum was feeling a terrible call of the ring. The Dark Lord was he, of course, but Sam wondered who she was. One of the nasty friends the little wretch had made in his wanderings, he supposed? Then he forgot the point, for things had plainly gone far enough and it was getting dangerous. A great heaviness was in all his limbs, but he roused himself with an effort and sat up. Something warned him to be careful not to reveal that he had overheard the debate. He let out a loud sigh and gave a huge yawn. "What's the time?" he said sleepily. Gollum sent out a long hiss through his teeth. He stood up for a moment, tense and menacing, and then he collapsed, falling forward on all fours and crawling back to the bank of the pit. "Nice hobbits. Nice, Sam," he said. "Sleepyheads, yes, sleepyheads. Leave good Smeagol to watch. But it's evening. Dusk is creeping. Time to go." High time, thought Sam, and time we parted too. Yet it crossed his mind to wonder if indeed Gollum was not now as dangerous turned loose as kept with them. "Curse him, I wish he was choked," he muttered. He stumbled down the bank and roused his master. Strangely enough, Frodo felt refreshed. He had been dreaming. The dark shadow had passed, and the fair vision had visited him in this land of disease. Nothing remained of it in his memory, yet because of it he felt glad and lighter of heart. His burden was less heavy on him. Gollum welcomed him with dog-like delight. He chuckled and chattered, cracking his long fingers and pawing at Frodo's knees. Frodo smiled at him. "Come," he said. "You have guided us well and faithfully. This is the last stage. Bring us to the gates, and then I will not ask you to go further. Bring us to the gates, and you may go where you wish. Only not to our enemies." "To the gate, hey?" Gollum squeaked, seemed surprised and frightened. "To the gate, master says. Yes, he says so, and good Smeagol does what he asks. Oh, yes. But when we get closer, we'll see perhaps. We'll see then. It won't look nice at all. Oh, no. Oh, no." "Go on with you," said Sam. "Let's get it over." In the falling dusk, they scrambled out of the pit and slowly threaded their way through the dead land. They had not gone far before they felt once more the fear that had fallen on them when the winged shape swept over the marshes. They halted, cowering on the evil-smelling ground, but they saw nothing in the gloom between sky above, and soon the menace passed, high overhead, going maybe on some swift errand from Barad-dûr. After a while, Gollum got up and crept forward again, muttering and shaking. About an hour after midnight, the fear fell on them a third time, but it now seemed more remote, as if it were passing far above the clouds, rushing at terrible speed into the west. Gollum, however, was helpless with terror, and was convinced that they were being hunted, that their approach was known. "3 times," he whimpered. "3 times is a threat. They feel us here. They feel the precious. The precious is their master. We cannot go further this way. No, it's no use. No use." Pleading and kind words were no longer of any avail. It was not until Frodo commanded him angrily and laid a hand on the sword hilt that Gollum would go up again. Then at last he rose with a snarl and went before them like a beaten dog. So they stumbled on through the weary end of the night, and till the coming of another day of fear they walked in silence with bowed heads, seeing nothing and hearing nothing but the wind hissing in their ears. And that is the end of Chapter 2 in Part 2 of The Two Towers. So, who is she? Who is the she that Gollum is referring to? Yes. But again, thank you, chat. So I could not keep up with all the comments. But I could see them all as I pick during my reading. But thank you. Again, thank you to Southeastern Kaiju for this $2 super chat. Much appreciated. And Anthony, you're right. Trey, you're right. Jaluk, you're right. Mike Hill, get that blast me out of the chat. Gravy D. That's my response to that answer. But thank you all again. So like I say, I'm going to be reading 2 chapters at a time. I'm going to be doubling up the reading stream. So the next reading stream will be Tuesday. Then the following one will be Thursday. So by the time, about the 3rd week in August, I will have 2 Towers read with a week to spare before September. And then beginning September 2nd, because that'll be the first Tuesday in September, I will be starting, reading horror stories. I have The Hellbound Hearts. Stig reminded me, you can't really see this book really clearly, but this is the Necronomicon. Short stories by H.P. Lovecraft. Not the Necronomicon from Evil Dead or anything. Alright? But short stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So I can read those as well. And I have other things that I can read through September into October time frame. Alright? So it's not the Evil Dead Necronomicon. It's just called that. But it's short stories by H.P. Lovecraft. Alright? So I'm not going to be reading from the Evil Dead one. Okay?
So, but I'll be starting with the Hellbound Hearts, basically the book which inspired the adaptation of Hellraiser. Okay, and I'll be beginning that September 2nd. So I'll be taking the last week of August off from reading to recuperate my voice. I'm also going to talk to the gentleman who made the thumbnail for the reading streams. I'm going to see if he can like maybe do one with more of like a horror essence to it, kind of like a gothic essence to it. So basically, when I begin the horror stories reading streams, it'll be a new thumbnail. I'm also planning on this will be going by the wayside until I pick up Return of the King in November, because I have my black lace shirt to wear during the horror stories one. So like I said, more of a kind of like a gothic, goth horror-esque look during the horror story reading streams. All right, but this will be the wear until I'm done with the Two Towers. I want to see if you'll also do like I said, another thumbnail for the horror story reading streams. Gravy, get your mind out of the gutter. Thank you. Anyway, chat. But thank you all again. Yeah, it went a little long because the chapters vary in length, so some streams will be longer than others, depending on the length of the chapters. But anyways, no stream tomorrow. Depending on how I feel, might stream Saturday, or I might just do a watch party offline. I might try the open beta for Battlefield 6. I'm not really liking what I'm saying, in particular, the whole COD feel to it, even though I've never played a Battlefield game. Everything I've heard says basically it's the opposite of COD, but then I'm looking at Battlefield 6 saying, well, I'm seeing COD in that. So what's the point of playing it? But at any rate, so we'll see. We'll see, but I do want to try at least one of the open betas. I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend, but definitely going to try for the following weekend. I might do a watch party Saturday. Talk Nerdy to Us will be on my channel this coming Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and then back to a relatively normal streaming schedule the following week, beginning Monday, returning to Silent Hill 2. Since I gotta tell you, chat, I'm gonna put this on Twitter. But I got a notification real fast from YouTube saying my last Silent Hill 2 stream, the one where I titled I Hate Eddie More Than the Nurses. So it looks like I Hate Eddie More Than Nurses may not be appropriate for younger audiences under our community guidelines. We placed an age restriction on it. What we found, your content was age restricted because of our community guidelines. Well, YouTube, when I set the stream up, I clearly indicate no, not for kids. But should age restricted naturally. Well, I got that notification from YouTube, and I was like, really? Really? Well, I'm going to post it, basically, because every time I set a stream up, I clearly mark it's not for kids. Because I know that I can't hold my mouth during gaming streams. Whatever curse word is in existence will come out. So I always mark it's not for kids. Yet I got a notification. We noticed that it should be age restricted. Really? Really? Anyway. So there it is, chat. That is the schedule moving forward. There it is. So, again, no stream tomorrow. 50-50 chance on stream Saturday. We'll see. But definitely a stream Sunday for Talk Nerdy to Us. So there it is. I just find it funny that I got the notification. And I'm like, really, YouTube? But anyway, take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you all, if not Saturday, then definitely Sunday for some pop culture news and Talk Nerdy to Us. Peace.